And your wife has called in several bulls for you.
Yeah.
How's that? Did she grow up hunting?
No.
Did she?
Her daddy was a hunter, squirrel hunter primarily. She was raised in the country, and there was no red light in the whole town. Her house and the church, and everybody lived rurally around it. And she was, she lived in the house her daddy was born in. Back then, you didn't have a lot of hospitals. And his name was Jerry, and Jerry's gone to his reward. And her mother has two, Tiny and anyway, so Mary and I married in 1990, and she wanted to go. And she'll whack a turkey in a minute. And so she loves calling them up. She doesn't necessarily want to kill an elk. She's had some chances to kill one with a rifle, but she says, nah, if he's not bugling and running up, I don't want to kill him.
Yeah.
And she says that she's not going to go sit in a tree and wait on a whitetail. She said, that's way too boring for me.
That's awesome. So what in your, have you experienced elk hunting changing as far as using calls on elk?
Well, we pay for all our hunts. When we access ranches, we want opportunity because we're trying to share it with the public and show what great habitat can mean, how many elk can be there if you have great habitat, and you protect them, and you protect the resource, and you kill cows to balance the herd out.
Manage it, right?
Manage it correctly. And the elk die. They can't pass on their knowledge like we can with written books and whatever. So they die. And so you might see it change if you hunt in one area and there's a whole lot of calling in that one season. It definitely affects things because the elk are hearing the calling, coming in, smelling you, so they begin to associate. They don't think, oh, that was a man making an elk call. They don't think that. I don't think. What they think is that the cow was calling and that humans showed up while I was coming to her too, but I'm out of here. I'm getting out of here. So I've seen them leave the mountain. They smell you. I've seen them leave for miles. You know, they don't tolerate humans very well. So the main thing is to people, you can't overcall at the wrong time. You can call a lot if you're in the right situation and you got the wind and you understand what you're saying to the elk. Yeah. Your dad taught me a lot. He's one of the most knowledgeable elk callers I've ever known. Yeah. And the sounds he can make are beyond belief. And he's good.
He is.
He is good. And and you're good. I mean, I watched y'all win world championships and do so. I mean, I've just been in awe. It's not like a bull up there doing it, you know. That's incredible what you and your dad have accomplished.
I still remember that the first time that I won a world championship, I was wearing a Primos shirt.
That was
1995 in Albuquerque.
That was fun. Yeah.
That was the first time I met you, and we went out and had dinner, and it was a lot of fun.
That was fun. How old were you then?
19.
19
years old.
How's your sister?
She's good. She's in California. So she still goes to the contest every year. And
she's bugling too, isn't she?
Oh, yeah? Yeah, she shot, it's been probably 8 years ago, shot like a 330-inch bull with her bow.
Awesome.
First animal with a bow, or first elk with a bow. And then last year she shot another bull that had to be 325. Another just beautiful bull. Only two elk she's ever killed. Idaho. Yeah, she's doing good though.
I was in one place in Idaho one time, and when I left there, one leg got shorter going up, and coming down it got longer.
Yep.
God, I mean it is
steep stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Is that where you hunt? You hunting some steep stuff?
We do. Yep. It separates the rest of the people from the elk sometimes, and like you say, you know, just that calling. I'm with you. I don't think elk get wise to calling. I think within a season they can. If there's a bunch of pressure, it gets harder throughout the season, and
no doubt.
That's why I love hunting them early in the season. They haven't been pressured. You know, they haven't heard a bunch of calls. They're not with the herds. And
well, I've seen them lower their volume.
Oh yeah.
And a lot of people think that a bull bugles loud every time. No.
Especially the big herd bulls.
Yes, and I've heard them bugles so soft, I mean, I don't think I could hear it 100 yards.
Yep. Yeah, you get in any kind of predator situation, whether it's grizzly bears, wolves, humans, if there's a heavy predator concentration in there.
And that's what we are.
Yeah,
We're a
absolutely.
predator.
Absolutely.
So if you can't overdo it, you got to protect the habitat. You got to give them the quarters to live, and elk can be elk.
Totally.
And we need to share it with as many people as we can. Public land is important.
Yep.
Private land is important. Managed correctly and allowing access at the right times, it's important.
Absolutely.
Yep.
So back to calls.
Okay.
What's been maybe the most unique experimental call you've worked on that didn't make it to the market, or something that maybe you thought was
there's been
going
a
to be...
bunch of those. You know, some of them are just too hard to use. You're trying to create something mechanically because a lot of people are scared. They're just going to go elk hunting once or once in a lifetime, or they don't want to spend a lot of time. They just want to go.
Yeah.
It's not like a rifle. Put the bullet in, zero it in, and it's probably going to be on zero the next year. You've got to learn a little bit.
Yeah. You got to invest the time.
So the one that took the greatest work was the Hoochie Mama. And that call was extremely successful. And it's one of our greatest, it still is one of our greatest selling calls. And it's mechanical. And the way that came about, I was trying to figure out how to do it. And so, you got a pen? So, I can show you. So, you got an open reed call, and you got a soundboard coming here. And you've got a reed on top. And you've got some type of wedge system and a barrel for an open reed call. And you put that in your mouth, as you know, and you're changing the effective length of the reed right there by moving your lip in or just rolling the call back, which changes the position of your lip.
For sure.
So I'm thinking, how do I make something mechanically? And I went and got my wife's turkey baster. And so I took off the long thing that you baste the turkey with. I took this off, and I took the bulb, and I put the bulb right here, and I taped it on with duct tape and sealed it up. And so I'd punch on it, and you go, like a duck. Okay? It can be refined, but what I need something that is pressing on this reed right here, and it's attached here. So when I hit it with my thumb, it hits that and moves that down to here. So I start out high and move low. As you know, all elk sounds are high to low. You know, go from high to low.
Yep.
And so I drew it up on another napkin, and I sent it to my friend in Wisconsin who does a lot of my mow work. And I showed it to him. He says, yeah, we can figure that out. And so I said, well, I'm going to start working on some. I'd take plaster of Paris and make some calls and file them with a file and try to make it work. And, you know, now we've got CAD work programs, and we've got SolidWorks, and we've got 3D printers, and we have all of that at our shop down south here at the second location. And we can actually theorize something and make it. If I want to make that cup, I can make that cup and that you drink out of, you know. And you can see it before we build the tooling and make it work. So anyway, that's the way we do it now. But so I went to the machine shop here in town, and I went down to the machine shop and showed the guys the parts that I'd drawn up, and I said, so can you help me make that? And I need this part to be flexible right here, you know. So we made it out of nylon. I mean, out of a billet of nylon. We milled it. And it was crude, but it proved it would work. And then you had to build the tooling to make it work. And it was all kind of trial and errors. This had to be flexible and rubberized, and this had to be another type of plastic. And when we first did it, we had to have a device here that would seal this to this, so it had to be bolted into place. So we molded this and put it together. 6 months later, the call fell apart. I'm going, okay. And we've already run a bunch of parts, and we think we got this thing done. This part, chemically, was reacting with this plastic. Oh my gosh. And we all of a sudden, and we could have sold them, but I'm not gonna do it. So we threw away, I don't know how many hundreds of thousands of parts, and went and found another material that wouldn't react with the polycarbonate that this was made out of. So you live and learn. I didn't know all that. You're an engineer.
Yeah.
You probably know some of that.
So funny thing, my first job application was to Primos, and that's.
Did I see it?
You did. I still have the handwritten letter from you.
What did I say?
You said, we don't hire engineers, I do all the engineering, and thanks for applying.
But I didn't know you.
You knew me.
I did?
Yeah, it was like a year or two after we
I
met.
want to see that.
Yeah.
That is hilarious.
So, yeah, I'd sent you an application. I was just getting ready to graduate with a degree in mechanical engineering and thought, man, what better?
I could have used you. I'd have made a lot more progress a lot quicker.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
I do.
Awesome. So material, you've got the materials that are reacting with each other. How'd you get into finding the right materials to make calls to begin with? Because I know
that's kind of, okay, I'll tell you some of it. So turkey calls are different than elk calls.
Yeah.
That's a breaking sound, and you want a thinner reed a lot of times. So the best thin reed back in the 70s when I was experimenting with all this in high school and getting all this done was what we call rubbers, and they call them condoms now. You bought them at the service station in the machine. They weren't now they're on the shelf. Back then, they were behind the counter. You were not allowed to go in and buy underage people buying stuff like that. So I finally selected the one I wanted and told my daddy, and I said, I need to order a case because I'm tired of paying them by each one. And he said, okay, I'll call the pharmacist and tell him it's okay for you to order it'll probably be a gross. It's 144. So I called Mr. Parkin's Pharmacy, and ordered a gross, and he called me, said, they're in, you can come pick them up. I think I got my driver's license, I'm 18, 17, I don't know. So I drove down there, and I'm going to Murrah High School, and I go down there, and he hands me the case, and this lady walks up beside me, and he goes, it's my counselor from school. And her name is Miss Breland. And he knew I was in a pickle because I didn't have to explain this to her. So he says, you can pay the girl up front. And that was at the pharmacy counter. And I said, hey, Miss Breland, and I took the box and took off, went up to her. So there's a blonde-headed, little blue-eyed girl up front, and I put the case of condoms on there. And she looked at them, and I said, I need to pay for this, pay cash. And she goes, we're having a party at the Grove tonight. And Grove is an apartment complex a little north of here. And I said, okay, you don't understand, I'm making turkey calls out of these. She said, you can come anyway. So that was a standing seminar tale that everybody thought was funny. But anyway, you got to be careful. You don't want young children to see and what's that? What's he talking about? Because daddies and mamas need to explain that at the right time, not when they're
Totally.
Yeah. So it has a place for the right crowd to laugh from that. But before it was over, we would buy an 18-wheeler full because that was the best way and the best price to buy the condoms. And we would buy them. They were not wrapped up. They weren't individually wrapped. They were just in bulk in boxes. And then we had, back then, I've got a better system now, but back then we would stretch them out and mark them, and you used a paper cutter to slice them because scissors roll and we wouldn't allow you to cut them. We had to have a good edge. And I made some elk calls out of them, but I'd have to use 2 or 3 to get them right. But the elk call was never perfect until your daddy created the pallet plate, and that backing plate allowed that front edge to make that sound and make it clean.
Yep.
And not let it break, and that's what made it so great. But anyway, the AIDS epidemic about killed us because when the AIDS epidemic came about, they wouldn't sell us. They were supplying a different clientele rather than a turkey call, elk call manufacturer, and they had to wrap them because they had liability reasons, so that they had to be wrapped. Yeah. So anyway, we had to open them up and unwrap them and send them through the process to get the raw materials to make the product. Good. Funny little story, but That's some of the history. You know?
Yeah.
You never know what you're going to get into when you go into
No
business.
kidding.
Yeah. You never know.
So I know when you started, you were still working in the restaurant industry, like
I
10 years.
I stayed in the restaurant for 12 years after I started the company.
So you're burning candle on both ends. So your sleep habits have definitely changed since then.
Yeah.
Now you go to bed at like 7:30 at night.
7:30, 8:30, yeah.
Yeah. So back then, employees, you had cousin Jimmy
Well, at first I didn't have any. It was just me. So I'd come home at night from closing the restaurant, which usually would happen 11:30, 12:30 for the restaurant that I was responsible for. And so I'd come home and I'd make calls. And then I would, have them ready. I had a little answering machine. I'd listen to it, and people wanted calls. I had little ads going in, little teeny tiny ads going in National Wild Turkey Federation, Turkey Call magazine, stuff like that. And so I'd try to fill the orders, and I had a little charge card machine and doing all that kind of stuff. And so I got to where I just couldn't do it anymore. So I started trying to hire people, and I found that there was a seminary school here with students who wanted to be at work whenever they could. So I took my garage and converted that into a little place for them to sit and had all the raw materials for them. So I began to process the raw materials, make the frames out of frame, a little metal deal that I had made. I took my frame to a tool guy and said, I needed something that'll make these, and I don't have much money. So he said, okay, well, we should go into a flywheel press to punch them out, but I can make it so you can hit it with a hammer. How does that work? It's better than cutting them out with scissors. So he made that for me, and I would sit on my carport floor and take a sledgehammer, not a full weighted one, but a smaller sledgehammer, and hit the thing. Sometimes I did it more than once and beat out a part, So, and then I'd line them with a certain adhesive to hold the deal in place, and later on we make what we call crown frames that pinch on the edges, which is better. But all that's part of what you learn as you go through the process. Anyway, so I ended up with, I think I had 12 employees, and then I hired a marketing guy. So I took the living room furniture, the dining room table out of the dining room, made it the room for him, and one thing, just kept doing it like that. And so finally, I got to where I had to do something. So my family owned a building next to one of the restaurants, and they had a vacancy in one of the little bays. I think it was 1,700 square feet, and I rented that. Before a couple of years, I had the whole building, which was about 30,000 square feet. And I had forklifts going up in the sky outside, bringing in materials and raw materials and parts, bring them downstairs and make them. And we probably grew to about 40 employees there. And then finally, we just couldn't grow anymore. And sales were just, some years we were growing 1,000%. It was crazy. Because we were doing a lot of things right about how we were marketing and how we were taking care of our dealers. And our motto is, it's all about the customer being successful at selling Primos products, and that's the dealer. So we built a building, and I planned the building I had this pitch on it with a straight wall, so I was going to add on to it down the road. So I started it. So 6 months in, we were running numbers and looking at it. We were already, it was 55,000 square feet. It was already too small. So we tore that side off and went ahead and did the other side. And I can remember that the building, the budget on the building, I had a guy overseeing that held everybody to the penny. Wouldn't do anything that was not planned for. So my budget was $4,050,000, and that was the construction loan. And so the permanent financing couldn't be done until the building was finished and was appraised. And so the appraiser came in, and I said, you're not supposed to know this, but this building has to appraise for $4,050,000, and I turned around and walked off. Because if it didn't, I'm done. Yeah. I've got to sell the building. I can't convert the construction loan to a permanent loan. Came in at $4,100,000. I was sweating bullets, man. And so we kept doing it. We kept figuring out how to do stuff by listening to the customer and giving him what he wanted. And the TV show was extremely successful, called The Truth About Hunting. And we had the DVDs going. And we would travel to a show, like we had a show in Kentucky, the ATA show. We'd go into the ATA show. And we'd travel, and the game in the car for me and the employees was to count who could spot the Primos bumper sticker the first. Because when you bought a DVD, you got a free bumper sticker. And it was amazing how many we could count.
Across the nation as you're
Yes,
driving.
across the nation as you travel. So, and then Canada was great. We started some sales in Europe, and it was a great story. And it's still fun.
Totally.
So now we're owned by a much bigger company called Vista that we sold out to, and we work for them and we help them keep it going down the road.
Yep.
Yeah.
What's been most rewarding for you in that whole journey, starting in your garage?
I can tell you that so quickly. The most rewarding, and I'm emotional about it, is seeing the people that came for the ride and watching them become more than they ever dreamed they could be, and watching them be successful. Today, leadership is all about influence. It's not about having authority. It's not about being able to tell somebody what to do. It's about influencing. You influence enough people in a positive way, they become part of a family, and they become part of what you're doing, and they believe in it.
Absolutely.
Mike Powell is now over Primos, and we hired him out of South Carolina as a marketing guy, and he learned the business and did well, and after we sold, they recognized how great he was and put him in charge of now 7 brands for the Vista company, and Primos is one of those brands.
That's awesome.
So yeah, it's just a wonderful thing. And you wouldn't believe the people that are there that have been there 20 years. You know, the CFO, Deborah Williamson, she's still there. Jimmy is cantankerous and the biggest jerk in the world. He's still there. My cousin, I love him. He was the chief operating officer, and we built it together. Back then, if I booked a trip and I got sick or for some reason I couldn't make the trip, I would hand him my plane ticket. No ID, no nothing. He flew as me, which is a scary thought. So, great story. Brad Ferris, Suzanne, Elena, there's just so many of them there. My assistant, Lorena, has been with me 27 years.
Yep.
She's unbelievable. She is God's gift.
So I spoke to her in 1997 when I sent the application in.
Yeah,
So.
she's awesome. She got 2 great kids. One of them was a trap shooting champion, a girl. Her name is Ileana. She just wanted to start shooting trap. And she's great. She went to the World Championships and got to shoot in a class to learn about it and see it. And
Wow.
She did well.
Well, I think we'd all agree that part 2 of the interview with Will Primos was absolute elk hunting gold. And I know in the restaurant we were all laughing when Will was telling us the story about the original materials that were used in some of the old diaphragm elk calls. And for as good as part 2 was, you don't want to miss part 3. Will opens up and talks about how hard it is to be an introvert and be in front of the camera all the time, but how he's able to overcome it because of his passion for elk and elk hunting. He also talks about how his family immigrated from Greece to the United States and how they opened a family restaurant business, a business that he was a part of until he started Primos Hunting Calls back in the late 1970s. In part 3, I also share a lot of the details from the hunt that we had in Wyoming during the filming of the Linguist film that was released by Sitka Gear last summer. If you haven't yet subscribed, be sure and click right up here and subscribe to the Elk101 YouTube channel so that you'll be notified as soon as new films and videos are released. And if you haven't seen part 1 of the interview with Will Primos, click right down here to watch it now. And stay tuned for part 3 coming soon.